Welcome. I'm joined with some blessed guests, Galactic family, wonderful people. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to give them the lengthy introductions, but I will introduce them. But this is the Age of Pandora podcast, and this is episode 15, I believe. And my esteemed co-host and wonderful friend KIARA, we have moved to the panel of guests today, so I will be moderating, which is going to be a blessed show. But the topic of today's show is really the master in you and the age that we are heading into on Gaia, on the new Earth at this time, which is an ascended race of human beings. And we're going to chat about lots of things today on this topic. So thank you for being with us. I am joined with some wonderful guests, and I will intro them, and then we're going to get straight into the show here. I'm joined by MARINA JACOBI of the Harmonic Reactor, who is doing some quite incredible work with her teachings about the 3D to higher dimensional structure. She's got some wonderful work. Please do go and check out her work after the show. MARINA, thank you for being with us, and thank you for your presence today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, world.
We also have the wonderful MAGENTA PIXIE, who is doing also some brilliant work in this esoteric world, in this world of the Great Awakening, and who is working directly with the White-Winged Council of Nine, as many of you already know. And she is doing some brilliant work. And we are blessed to have her, who's got a little bit of a sore throat. So thank you for joining us with that, MAGENTA.
Hi, everyone.
And of course, KIARA WINDRIDER, who is on every week with me, my esteemed co-host and great friend, and just the sage-like wisdom that he brings that I learned so much from, who is now on the guest panel today and has got wonderful books out, some books the other people have as well. We're all sort of authors and published in the making here in many regards. But KIARA, blessed to have you on the guest panel today, my friend. Welcome.
Thank you.
And of course, Laura Eisenhower, who is the great granddaughter of Dwight Eisenhower and so much more, and is really, in my opinion, Laura, the absolute depiction of a spirit warrior, and is doing some exopolitical work to awaken humanity and heal people. And she's also an esoteric astrologist and many other things, and is doing some quite brilliant stuff as well. So Laura, thank you for joining us.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much.
And saving the best to last, Jeff Dunphy, who is in the same city as me, who I see almost every week, who is also involved with some profound work, retoolingtheworld.com. Please do go and check out all these platforms after the show, guys. Links will be in the description. But Jeff is doing some just brilliant, amazing work on, has been for many decades actually, on teaching the ascension of humanity, really how to develop the master in you, how to awaken to your genius, how to take back control of your vessel with your soul infused personality in sort of one embodiment, and is doing some wonderful work with these teachings, which I am part of, and is working with many masters, as we all are. So Jeff, thank you for joining us as well today.
I am humbled and honored by the opportunity to be here today with the esteemed panel, and thank you very much for your efforts putting this together so that we can change things. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Well said. Very welcome. Well, let's dive into the show here, guys. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to try and keep things to an hour and a half. I will probably fail in that light, but there we go, to err is human. And I want to share, before we begin here on the first topic, what I shared in our pre-show energy work, which was, there's a lot going on right now. We know this. There's a lot of energies going on the planet, some as empathic individuals, as light bearers, light warriors, as spirit intuitives. We are being affected by some of those energies, and that's okay. That's okay, and it's good, but we must not let them control us. And at this time, and I had not an epiphany, but it's actually from a meme, so maybe that is an epiphany on the digital realm, but in the digital realm. But nature right now, as we are in fall, as we're in autumn, if you're tuning in from Europe, nature can teach us so much. We know that. But at this time, it teaches us how easy it is to let go. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. We're going to talk about topics that are so simple from the teachings of the masters, but not necessarily easy to apply from our programming and belief systems. There's a big difference, and we must bridge that gap at this time, and many of us are. But nature, with the leaves falling, with the season changing, with the temperature changing, with the snow falling here in Calgary, which Jeff is experiencing too, and some of you are around the world, is that it happens. The season happens. The leaves fall, the temperature does change, and the winds blow in. It is that simple, guys, to let go, to let God, and to love. And I'm talking to myself, as I always do. And I wanted to start the show with that preface. But anyway, welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us. Let's talk about our first topic, which is really, and they're all connected here, guys. And I will try and follow the chat as much as I can. But the time that we're in now, the reason why there's so much chaos and there's seemingly so much high energy, seemingly so, that we're experiencing is because we're moving beyond the matrix. The matrix is collapsing, and the infrastructure, and spiritually and physically, that has been designed to keep humanity in a channel for a very real agenda is breaking. The walls are coming down. You watching this are responsible for that. So thank you. But moving beyond the matrix, the soul infused Homo sapien. And I want to just sort of direct this first of all to you, Marina, with your wonderful work. And I'm on your 10-day detox of social media right now, which is just powerful. Oh my goodness. Marina, can you talk about how whatever you want to share here, how we move beyond the matrix at this time when there's so much in our face?
Well, right now, the way the guidance, I'm connected with the Council of Nine, also as MAGENTA PIXIE, hi MAGENTA, and also extraterrestrial groups. So if you look at my material, you will see that most of the materials were coming from extraterrestrial groups and the Council of Nine, which are the Pleiadians, are the ones that gave me extra advanced extraterrestrial technologies. But at the same time, they were teaching about how the quantum manifestation works. So my work is actually more connected how to combine consciousness with quantum physics. So it's very technical when it comes to the particles and the nanostructures, and even artificial intelligence could have a positive timeline of reality. It has its own existence. So it doesn't have to be taken completely in the negative. And yet they're using it for the negative, but it has its own structure that can evolve in a positive. So when you combine all this knowledge together, you will realize that everything around you is based on holographic imprints of sound, light, which is actually the God particle. That God particle, it's so potent on structure and vibration that expands to infinite realities and probabilities of structures. And when you know that you are created from that one God particle, so God you are, and you can self-express itself to a different parallel realities and timelines based on structures, then there's no fear. Then you know that all the way you were confirming with the leaves, how they falling from the trees, is simply is. And if you know all that knowledge, and if you know how to combine the structures, your infinite love of creation and combination of consciousness itself.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you, Marina.
You're welcome.
Let me just turn this echo off here. Wonderful. Jeff, do you want to pick up that as well? Anything you want to add to that?
Well, one of the simple messages that the masters have passed down is our connectivity. And one of the things that Marina just said is when you realize that you are connected to the all, to the Tao, as the Taoists would say, to the Force, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say, you start to realize that we are an expansive expression of consciousness wanting to go home. And the evolutionary process of that is we fall into matter, we wake up from the limitations of matter, and we allow ourselves to move back into that awareness of the one. And it's a process. It's an absolute process. The manvantara, the breathing out of expression of consciousness into the matter, the brushing yourself off of all the nonsense, and the time to come home. And as you know, various of the scriptures talk about this time being the time of revelation, where the light, as Marina just pointed out, the lights get turned on and you start to realize that you are the manifestation of the Christ consciousness, of the Tao, of the Force.
Amazing. I love it. KIARA, do you want to bring anything into that with maybe some of the Inca traditions or some of the things that have come in from your journey?
Well, we're definitely coming home, home to ourselves, home to this planet, home to our hearts, home to each other. And it's such a beautiful opportunity in spite of all the craziness and chaos and madness that we're experiencing around us at this time. It's like, you know, two different views of reality based on how we our perceptions. And what we're here for, I guess, is to change our perceptions. And in changing perceptions, we change reality. And it's a powerful gift that we're given. It's a powerful opportunity to practice being a creator. And, you know, I'm so excited to be here on this earth at this time. And, you know, sometimes people talk about going home, and I think it's more about coming home and recognizing home all around us and everything that we do, every experience that we have. For me, one of the major paradigm shifts is to recognize that there is no such thing as dark and light separate from each other. Yes, we can interpret reality as dark and light, but on the other hand, we also recognize that what we call dark and light is actually two sides of the same coin, and creator consciousness is present in all of it. And so we can interpret everything that's happening right now. If we can do it from that perspective, it changes it and it empowers us. When we get too caught up in the idea of right and wrong, dark and light, it's very easy to become a victim. And, you know, this is something that all of humanity we've been struggling with for thousands of years in our collective human history. And as we begin to awaken, as we begin to embrace the shadows, light shadows, dark shadows, gray shadows, we're recognizing that we're not victims anymore. And so once we really truly get that, I think we begin to change the world externally also. So I'm really excited to be here. You know, it's like this is the challenge that we've been waiting for. This is why we've come from across the galaxies. And it's great to be part of this team of, you know, so many millions of us here right now on this planet. So thank you all for being here. And it's great to be here with this, you know, amazing screen of people. And all of you watching and experiencing and coexisting.
Beautiful, KIARA. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Just quickly, guys, yeah, Facebook wasn't allowing us to stream there. So if you do know people waiting in the Facebook group for the live stream to start there, it won't because they won't allow us to do it for some reason. There's a little glitch, which could be my fault. So please share the YouTube link that you're watching this on with them so they can join us. Laura, do you want to just jump in with anything else from this conversation?
Yes. Well, it's amazing to be here. My gosh. And these are really incredible times. And I think what's really important to emphasize, which we all kind of share in our own, different kind of words, is we are in a relationship with everything, a relationship with ourself, a relationship with the earth, with humanity, with the political structures, the power structures in the world. There's another thing that streams through that can disrupt our relationships. And we need to understand the social engineering and all the different, things that prevent us from having the most authentic relationship with ourself, the earth, cosmos, spirit, and understand that we are advancing the human vessel right now. And in having a relationship, we need to understand what is blocking the flow of light, what sort of toxicity or dynamics make it very, very difficult for that circulation to enter all the cells, all the organs, all the energy, meridians that can flow unimpeded without, any blockages or obstacles. And so the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects all run the risk of having accumulation or contamination. And that is going to block that flow of energy. And if we can be mindful and conscious in our every waking moment, conscious even in the dream realms to the point where we can become lucid, we can see the quality of that relationship. Is it draining us? Is it reciprocal? Is it balanced? Is it harmonious? Or is it drama and conflicting and taking us down into the lower worlds where we're literally hosts for parasites and archons and all sorts of entities? So when we can look at it from the micro perspective of just maintaining relationship with self, our loved ones, family, children, and anybody that's in our immediate environment, and sort of notice what it takes to create the ultimate connection of love, compassion, integrity, and really being able to enter the bliss realms and move mountains together as a team, we can stretch that into the much larger picture and see our relationship with, everything else. Where are those relationships really not serving us? Where does it cause us anxiety and fear? Where do we start to notice our creative channels getting infected by propaganda or stuff that really isn't true to us, that actually makes us feel constricted and blocked, to where we're almost boarding up the energy centers to the light energies that want to penetrate and come through? So to me, it's all about relationship right now, and asking yourself, what is the quality of this relationship? Does there need to be a boundary? Is there a chance for transformation? Or is there something that you can generate into the field in order to help activate a positive response that can bring about a greater connection? And I feel that it's across the board. And what we're going through right now in this dark night of the soul of the human race is breaking the relationship with the old paradigm and building a stronger relationship with what we need to see the world become through taking that stand within ourselves, so that we can have the discernment and we can have the ability to know, who the imposters are, who the robbers are, and who are the ones that are going to steal and deceive. And without having that relationship and finding that Christ consciousness connection, it's very easy to just lose ourselves to everything that's trying to convince us of how we need to think and what we need to do. And that's part of the harvesting agendas, and part of how they can manipulate us into creating a timeline that we don't want to see and enabling something artificial. So connect to the true love story within yourself, settle for nothing less than true love, and you'll begin to know who's really on your side and who's not. And if you participate in your part of the relationship and you just don't sit back and expect somebody else to do all the work for you, you can build the most beautiful connection, which begins to sort out our scrambled fire codes, because the true nature of upgrading our DNA is that sacred union alchemical marriage, and has to be in all forms within ourselves first.
I think we could end the show there, can we? Beautiful. Thank you for all that. Wonderful, Laura. Magenta, I want to tiptoe across to you.
Well, I just like to say I'm still really blissed out from that meditation that we did before you went live. And David, I'd just like to say you have the most perfect voice for meditation and for taking others through a meditation, and such resonance is very powerful. But in answer to your question, apart from agreeing with everyone, I feel looking at the multidimensionality of life in all things. So when you are working with the spiritual energies, being aware of what's happening on the physical level, when you're caught up in some kind of physical linear experience, be aware of the multidimensionality of that and what it may mean in so many different ways, listening to the body. For example, you mentioned I had a sore throat. I've actually lost my voice, as you know, or I did lose my voice. It's back now, as you can tell, but it's not fully back to normal. And when I first did lose my voice and couldn't do any interviews or recordings or anything, I thought, well, why would the universe prevent me from speaking when that's my job? What have I done wrong, or why am I being moved away from my mission? But then after silent communication with the nine and working with them and working all this out, at the same time, it was an opportunity to rest the voice, take a step back and rest. And as Laura will know, both of us, we've been making videos and interviews nonstop since lockdown in March repeatedly. And I think perhaps I was feeling that that's what I had to do because that's my mission. And I think the whole voice thing and the throat chakra energy was kind of telling me to take a step back for a while and have a little bit of a hiatus, a little bit of a rest in order to recoup those energies. And I think even though there's something happening every single day right now on all the dimensional levels, physically and spiritually, I think we need to be aware that we are part of a team. And if we take a step back in what we believe is our mission, there are others there that are carrying that energy for us. So we don't have to be pushing ourselves every day to try to help everyone else or explain what's going on. So I think listening to one's body, looking at the multidimensionality of what's happening to our environment and to our own bodies and in our own realities, and actually looking at deeply at the reasons why things are happening. And this will help us to navigate through our situation now and what's coming. Obviously, I'd love to say more, but I'm going to say as much as I can in as little as possible words. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks, Magenta. And we are blessed to have you on. I know you've had some real throat troubles and affliction over the last few weeks. So thank you for braving that. Not easy. Ascension symptoms, I guess, in a way. But I've got so many notes here and things that I want to share, and I can't share all of them. But I love what you're saying. And there are so many people right now who are going, well, this sounds great. It's very elaborate in narration from all of you, from me. But practically, what do I do to stay in presence? What do I do to love the ego into submission? Jeff, as you always talk about, what do I do to be rather than, and this time's for do, but how do I be? And I want to read a little piece here. And Jeff, I want you to chime in on this. And this is from the Life and Teachings, Jeff, that I always talk about so much. These series of books has given me so much life and teachings of the Masters of the Far East, which I've just completed and I'm going to reread. But it says, this is from Jesus the Christ, just let go of the thoughts of burdens, and you are completely relieved from them. The conquering Christ gives you perfect freedom. You soar with the birds in perfect freedom. Give the conquering Christ within you the opportunity to free you. Now, as I was talking about with my partner last night, who's, as we all are going through our own individual challenges, I said to her that it is as easy as just letting go. Never say that to a woman, by the way, guys. Ever. Unless you want to be put in your place to a large degree, and she did do that. But I really, and Jeff will chime in here in a sec, I gave the analogy of we're all sort of climbing the Himalayas right now. We're all helping Gaia and the collective of Homo sapiens move on this great trajectory of higher densities and higher frequencies in this ascension, this event, whatever you want to call it. And we're on this journey, and each of us have got, and this is a wonderful Navy SEAL friend of mine who given this talk a while ago, and I love this this sort of analogy, this story. And it's that we're carrying these bags of rocks, right? And there's different weights in each bag, there's different sizes of rocks. And at Everest Base Camp, it's still challenging to carry them, but it's not quite as bad because we're at the bottom of the mountain kind of thing. One of the first levels to climbing it before the ascension of it. And as we get up on this journey, we carry not enough money in one bag. There's, oh, what are my child's sick, my wife just died, whatever it is. We carry many of these bags on this journey. And although there is a very important thing to be said about the energies that come in that are negative, to have discernment and to recognize what you need to transform and what you need to deny and let go of and just leave. And that can be tricky. But it is as easy as sometimes as going, you know what? And, one of the Sherpas comes up to you on this journey and goes, just drop the money bag. Just let it go. Let it roll down the hill. And it is that simple, guys. It's not that easy to do, as I mentioned. But Jeff, as we come into this journey and we are fought hammer and nail by the ego mind, by the intellectual mind, there is so much to be said for learning how to love the ego into submission, but to act through presence. And I'm just going to leave that and let you share whatever you want to share on that particular piece.
We speak in Retooling about how to loosen attachments, right? To get attached to detachment and get detached from attachments. And oftentimes when people wake up, they wake up to this idea that the ego isn't necessarily the boss, it's a servant. And when you come to that conclusion, you start to realize that there's something of a much bigger nature driving things. And so, I don't know where this came from, but it just presented itself now. And it's like something's happening. The car has challenges. A relationship goes sideways, family matters rise up and stuff. And if you can stand and get really quiet and just go plot twist, and then act as the director and the screenwriter and say, okay, how am I going to deal with this plot twist? Then you start to get that it's kind of like flowing down a river. It's whitewater rafting. Oftentimes people want to get into the river and paddle upstream. Like, why do you want to do that? What's the message? Let's not fight with the reality. Let's figure out how to rewrite the script. And it's an ongoing task. And the only way to do that is to be present and sort of figure out what's the way to act in presence in order to accommodate whatever lesson's being presented to you. So yeah, we're going through some big, challenging times. And in the very same breath, it has purpose. So we say when people are on the path and they start to figure out what their true selves are, they can put up with the pain and the upset and the consternation of life because they realize that all of these things give purpose to their journey. And that's always something that's quite conciliatory when we're going through super challenging times.
Beautiful. I totally agree. Yeah, Marina, your last Saturday show was just excellent. Really, really good with those wonderful codes from the 9, that DNA and code sort of transmission. And as I mentioned, I'm on this 10-day detox from social media with you. But can you speak to some of the things that maybe you're doing, or some of the Council of 9 are really advising people to do at this point to hold that vibration, the physical, practical things?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful answers. The whole thing here is when we going through the platforms of different realities, since consciousness is basically going to the next level, all the vibrational sequences into the matrix are increasing rapidly. But when they're increasing, since your consciousness itself, also your molecular structure is increasing. Usually the way they teach me is based on structures and particles, because when you know the chemistry and the alchemy of creation, you can be able to control the realities. That's also the chemistry of everything, the metaphysics of it. And if you are able to construct and deconstruct these realities the way you were teaching us through the quantum manifestation protocol, you are utilizing every single reality based on your choosing. No matter what's happening, you have a way of finding the center within the storm and switch the platforms with different frequency vibrational sequences based on your actions, thoughts, and emotions. And this trinity creates a magnetic and gravitational field within the structure itself, which is your own matrix that you're projecting, that expands, but is shifting towards reality timeline based on the higher resonances where higher consciousness it's moving towards. Because consciousness is moving through the entire structure, not only through positive and negative. Within the structure, there's no bias. It simply is. But it's different expressions. So you have to choose to act upon it. And this is the time that they said you have to stay on a positive thoughts, positive actions. This is the reason why so many people like us, if the wonderful panelists today, I'm honored to be between you all guys. I see explosion of people like us coming together with a unity structure so we can express and really hold that particular vibrational sequences, because each one of us right now, since we're talking quantum structure, is holding within the matrix of everybody that is watching specific resonance sequences. Laura, Magenta, Jeff, David, including you, including me, and everybody that is here. That resonance creates a structure of certain unity matrix right now as we speak. And that resonance, when each one of us expresses that knowledge, becomes a resonance sound wave within the structure for everybody that is listening right now. You actually downloading these codes into your matrix and activates your DNA in a higher resonances. Because within the structure itself, you're actually projecting each one of us right now to create the next momentum of reality. And once you know that, you will absolutely be downloaded and helped through the process to move forward because you chose to do so. And this is how the quantum structure works. They explain everything to me, that each one of us is a resonance sequence, geometry platform, carries specific pulsation of vibration, and that creates different type of realms of realities within, under the umbrella of Ascension Protocol. And that umbrella, you have the negative structure that is trying to suppress, which goes into their own time of reality. And we also, by us choosing, by being completely aware and awakened, by holding the center of that information and not being manipulated and completely suppressed through fear, which is a complete illusion. But the illusion comes through the fact that you're giving a consent without doing the research, without seeing the facts, and ignoring completely what is right in front of your face. And that's what they want from us. They want, and I'm quoting, you have to look at the facts. The facts will lead you to the truth, and the truth will set you free. But that is the freedom of your mind and understanding. And that's how we're moving forward. So thank you.
Amazing. But the truth will kick you in the nuts first, huh, Jeff?
Yes, because it's not easy. Look, each one of us, if you know Laura's story, I'm sure Magenta has her own situations, including me. Each one of us, whoever I know so far, is being through a tremendous pressure to move forward and to expand that knowledge there. And now they're attacking channels and they're doing everything else. And yet we're still holding that ground so we can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And nothing can stop the light, and nothing can stop this movement, because the Great White Brotherhood, which has been on the planet for a long time, and this is not some sect or sort of organized religion, so to speak. The Great White Brotherhood is everyone who's listening to this and who's not, who are in pursuit of bringing the light to the planet. And in the late 1800s, and Baird talks about this, Baird Spalding, in his Life and Teachings of the Masters, is that really in the late 1800s, if you looked at the Earth on a sort of a flat plane, of course, some people believe that it is, and that's okay. But if you look at it on a flat plane, or even whether it's spherical, you see it that way, is there were pockets of people on the planet, enlightened beings, some of them 2, 3, 4, 500 years old, some of them thousands of years old in human form, that are still alive today, by the way. And many of them are in India and across other parts of KIARA. You can talk about that. But the pockets of people that were there formed a perfect pyramid. And they brought the light and they So did that. But the Great White Brotherhood is this galactic family that we're part of. It's the Bringers of the Dawn, as Barbara Marciniak talks about, wonderful Pleiadian message back in the 80s as well, which I just posted. The mission that we have here is, and there's lots, this is very sort of personal, but it's really to hold the light, hold the space. And it boils down to the two things that I always talk about, which is to learn to let go and to help others remember why they're here. And sort of it falls into that in the mission that we're on here. But yeah, powerful stuff. Thank you, Marina, for sharing that. KIARA, I'd love to bring you in, my friend, and just talk about some of the things you think Gaia is going through right now and how we can physically help Gaia with our thoughts, our words, and our deeds.
Well, Gaia is certainly going through her own evolutionary journey, as all species are, and it's not so easy to understand Gaia from the level of the rational mind. And I think what we are doing here is to expand our own ability to step beyond the rational mind. And there's many, many different layers of the mind that teachers like Sri Aurobindo talk about: the higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, overmind, supermind. But as we step into these levels of the mind beyond what we are currently aware of, we are also stepping into the mind of Gaia. It's an elemental consciousness, but also a very distinct consciousness that we can begin to connect with if we choose, through nature, through our own bodies, by opening to the greater evolutionary purpose and becoming consciously a part of that. So my journey towards understanding Gaia has been very much about surrender, letting go of the human aspect of being, and expansion. So it's like stepping out of the human self and connecting with vaster and vaster realms of consciousness. And there used to be a time when I was feeling almost sorry for Gaia. It's like, look at us humans, what we've done to this earth. And feeling very apologetic and feeling very angry and feeling very victimized in a way. Until I realized that, if Gaia wishes, she can just wipe us off the face of the earth in an instant. But we are part of Gaia. So we are not separate from her. And with that awareness came the realization that, yes, each species has a particular function. And our function as a human species is to become part of the nervous system of Gaia. And as that, we have an ability and a responsibility to connect with galactic forces and to channel those galactic forces through our bodies, through our consciousness, through our hearts, through our minds, into the earth, and then support her in her journey of awakening. So it's like she's on an evolutionary journey. We are on an evolutionary journey. The ancients talk about Gaia luminous, Homo luminous. This is the next evolutionary phase that's inevitable. And every time we go from one phase to another phase, there's a moment of transition, like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, there's a cocooning. And that's the stepping into the mystery. It's moving away from things from a way of perception, from a way of identity that we have become familiar with, into something that's totally unknown. And what makes this time so unpredictable and crazy is this unknown. And there's something beautiful about the unknown if we allow that. There's something beautiful about allowing ourselves to just merge consciousness with Gaia, to let go of our humanness. What does that mean? The first time I experienced that was when I was swimming with whales and dolphins. in Hawaii, and then later in Egypt. And I do this every year now. But in letting go of that humanness, we become part of something much greater than ourselves, which is one step towards becoming part of Gaia, one step towards supporting her in her journey and listening to what that's about. And we can certainly support her in this journey, but we also need to listen very humbly to what she needs, rather than imposing our ideas of what she needs upon her. So to me, this is also about what it means to be fully human, which also means being fully divine. Because as far as Gaia, there's no distinction. Everything is alive, everything is living in this one consciousness. So that to me is, this is just touching the mystery of Gaia. The indigenous people around the world have understood that she is mother, she is friend, she is beloved in so many more ways than we are aware of. And we can't just pin her down to one aspect of understanding. So how do we listen to her now in these times? It may seem that her body is being threatened, being overrun by human greed. But there's also something, as she's stepping through the cocoon, that there's a great mystery opening up. And she doesn't see it in that way. She doesn't see herself as a victim. She doesn't see herself as being persecuted and oppressed. And that's the great mystery. It's like, yes, we step into this great mystery with her and then support her in co-creation of something spectacular that is inevitable now. It's happening. It's already here if we have eyes to see.
Beautiful.
So to me, this is such a rich time to be here.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful time to
Thank
be
you,
alive.
KIARA. I want to just share quickly, I can see in your background, you've got sort of these two lights, and you're right in the center of them. Whether that was planned or not, it's quite good, like these two sort of angels watching over you. I had an experience, just real quick, stupid story, but some of the things that are happening to me now, as Jeff, I talk about with you and KIARA, just amazing. I was waking up, this was yesterday, and I woke up with, I was doing something astrally, just a lot of anxiety, and it was really in my body, and I sort of had come out of the dream, which I remembered, and now it's gone. But I just remembered, and I did, in that anxiety and fear that was really quite strong, actually, I just did a Christ consciousness invocation, and then I called in, and I didn't even think about this, I just did it. I guess this is the spiritual push-ups, Jeff, that we talk about. Sometimes you just do it because you do it so often. And I called in all my guardian angels, all my galactic angels, all my guides, and any other angels that want to be here now, just to bring in protection and peace to me. And I was pretty awake at this point, and the room got brighter slowly. It got brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. And it reminds me of what's behind you, KIARA. And I could see, I can't really remember this bit, but I could see angel wings of some kind. There were angels present. And then, get this, there was a harp that played. Like someone put their finger on a harp and ran it down, real quick. About 4 feet, there's nothing in the room. About, I could see, 4 feet away from me, this harp played. And it was like it was playing right there in the room with me, very soft. It was extraordinary. And then peace just washed through me, and I just lay there in out of my intellect completely. It was just extraordinary. But anyway, that's a tangent story that your light things remind me of yesterday morning, KIARA. Beautiful. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the ascension, the event, whatever you want to call this. It's not going to be sort of one thing. There may be big things that happen to make it happen. And there are lots of different sort of versions of this, the solar flash, the great galactic superwave, et cetera, et cetera. But Laura, maybe I want to throw this to you. What do you think this event is going to be? Is it going to be an event? And just some thoughts around it from your side.
I think the event happens for each of us individually until there's so many people that have gone through their own personal event that it becomes this much bigger event. Because the Earth is an organism, it's a multidimensional consciousness, I guess you could say, just like we are. And we're moving out of the personality matrix where we're easily mind controlled. I really liked what Jeff said about the ego. It's either, you know, it's been operating as a boss, but it's really a servant. And our physical vessel is a container for the multidimensional and all these other aspects of self in order to bring this, you know, energy of the divine in to give us that event of not letting the negative ego constructs control us anymore or suppress these things coming through, because it's always been there, but we've been taught to turn the other way or put our attention on something else through energetic cords, maybe to you know, an external source to connect to God, or a teaching or a distortion that just kind of misses the mark, or we're wrapped up in our trauma bodies and we got so much amnesia that we can't really locate those places we need to heal. And so when we bring consciousness to the unconscious parts of ourselves, we begin to see what's going on behind the scenes. And we're doing that on the planet and seeing what's been operating behind the scenes of these, you know, different power structures and these, you know, different world wars and all the false flags and psychological operations, hidden secret space programs, ET abductions, benevolent extraterrestrial presences, and just like the full picture. So when we go into the dark night of the soul of ourselves and we recognize the much larger picture, the two kind of go hand in hand, because as we deprogram, we have to kind of deprogram through seeing what's behind you know, closed doors. And these closed doors are like gatekeepers, and they're seals and frequency fences as well in our DNA, and also that encase the planet. And that begins to dissolve when we begin to recognize a much fuller picture. And it requires us to go into that really uncomfortable place of, you know, accepting that, yeah, whatever we might have invested our lives into, whatever we might have educated ourselves in might not actually be right, might not be good for us. And so it's a certain, you know, kind of level of humility, but it's the most liberating thing that we can give to ourselves, because that's what breaking up with the narcissist is all about. You're no longer being played. You're no longer being vamped off of. And that is such a huge event when people go there and embrace and absolutely love unconditionally, you know, the painful part of, you know, facing those dark aspects of the world and ourselves, how we participated with it unknowingly. So I think it's an event that each of us go through. When I read people's charts, I kind of notice, you know, different stages in their life where they had that, you know, moment of, you know, clarity or awakening. And, you know, as long as we can hold ourselves consistent to it and keep up with the energy maintenance, knowing that we don't ever really arrive, we have to just keep, you know, the maintenance going and learn how to shield ourselves and learn, you know, ways to support the physical vessel in being able to integrate what's already happening on a cosmic and earthly level. We've been in this window period for quite some time, and it's taken different forms and stages. So the timeline shift really happened, I feel, in 2010 when the sun started to move through Ophiuchus. And that is the 13th sign. November 30th to December 17th is when we start to move through that 13th sign, which is coming up. And that's ether element, very purifying. And that's been in reversal codes, and we've been unable to really step into that. So for the last 10 years, we've been in this slow purification process where all this stuff is being exposed, all this stuff is being purged out. We're going through a global detox personally and collectively. And there's a point in which that event happens. And all of a sudden, you know, we have that moment of realization that, you know, none of this is external. Even extraterrestrials aren't. We are all a part of this greater unified field, but diversity and harmony is the only way we can achieve oneness, because if we lose our sovereignty, then we're playing the same patterning over and over again. So some of these realizations will start to really bring people into a whole nother frequency. And I call that, you know, like the override frequency. And it begins to help other people achieve an event because it becomes the activator. The awakening star seeds really have a recon mission where they're literally pulling people out of the waters that might be drowning, but every once in a while they might get dragged in and start drowning themselves. So, you know, it's like, okay, wipe yourself off, everything's fine. But when we just really see what the priorities are and we drop the theater matrix facades, that to me is the event. And it's really, I think, going to be huge December 21st when the Jupiter, Saturn, and Aquarius conjunction happens. And then we'll start 2021 with Uranus square Saturn, where literally Saturn's holding on to Uranus for dear life. the old paradigm energies are not wanting us to move into this event or into this huge realization of our higher mind, that electrical energy that'll really upgrade our DNA, connect us into the magnetic and into the grounding cord of this earth so that we can achieve the tree of life template on the full sphere capacity instead of the artificial tree of life template that has been in reversals. So as we cross over December 21st and we begin to amplify that Uranus Aquarian energy, they're going to try and hold that with the Saturn square and pull us into the shadow side of it, which is the dark technologies, the AI, the transhumanism, and any shadow element is unconscious. And the shadow work is to go into that unconscious space. And the unconsciousness of humanity is, oh, that will solve our problems. We need to be masked. We need to do all these artificial synthetic things to solve the problems, when the highest octave of Uranus is, wait a second, we're sovereign beings. We're in this greater flow with, you know, the cosmos and spirit and Gaia, and we're actually rebuilding the architecture of our DNA, and we don't need any of that. So if we can all embrace the shadow work and not let Saturn pull us into that fear space, then we're going to see a huge event take place, I feel, between December 21st going into next year. But to me, it's a slow drip. It can't happen too fast. It'll blow out people's circuits too quickly. So everybody's at a different sort of stage and phase in it. And if we can be chameleon enough to know how to address each individual as they come towards us and present themselves, as long as it's done with respect, because it's not good to be attacked and we have to have our boundaries, each person will work on the piece that they need to integrate most. And that's why we all have diverse charts. We're here to share our codes. We're here to rebuild our DNA architecture by accepting the differences as a blessing instead of a threat. So to me, each of us has our own event, and it's going to be a collective event. And if enough of us have that personal event this next year, we will see the fall away more and more of these artificial systems that are utilizing fear and the fear of death as a mechanism of control. Because just like we talked about the cocoon and transformation, that's a death transformation cycle. So the fear of death in a virus is stunting the growth of that. So if we can drop that fear and embrace, the medicine of the earth and the truth that as we upgrade, we can transmute all that stuff that they're teaching us to fear, we're well on our way to experience a massive event. And that's almost like the return to the Christ energy, to me, is what the solar activity is about too. But our integration process is not necessarily going to be the same, but then there's going to be one thing that happens that no matter where you are on your path, it's either going to knock you out, you're not going to be able to maintain a physical vessel, or you're going to go through the most unbelievable upgrade. Might not be comfortable, but you'll get there. And people like all of us are here to really support you and love you and help you along.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. There was a time when I was like, come on, let's I'm ready for the event. I'm ready for the ascension. I'm ready to move out to higher densities. And then some of the things I've experienced the last 6 months, I'm like, well, it does kind of need to be progressive, because the vessel, the hardware that we have, which is our physical biological body, is now consistently getting attuned to and receiving new software all the time. And of course, as you've experienced with technical stuff, all of you, I'm sure, when you try and lump in software that requires too much hardware that your current machine hasn't got, what happens? Well, it breaks the machine. Like, it freezes. So it's got to be progressive. But no, I love what you said. Magenta, what are some of the things that the White Wing Council of Nine have maybe said about the Ascension or event that you want to share?
Well, so much really about the Ascension and the event. But one thing they did say to me recently, talking about I was asking them actually how we would move into the new Earth. And where is the new Earth right now? Because the Nine say it's available for us now. So obviously this is part of the event, part of the Ascension, which is the creation of the new Earth. That is, as Laura said, there are multiple ways of looking at the event. And as KIARA said, there are multiple ways of looking at Gaia. It's all so multidimensional in all of its different forms. So one of the questions I asked them was about new Earth. And if it's available for us now, where is it? For example, if people want to go out into society and gather together, a lot of places on this earth right now, they can't do that, or they can't access a particular business or shop or restaurant or cafe because of restrictions and lockdowns. So I'm saying to them, where is this new Earth? If you're saying it's here now and it's part of the event, it's part of the Ascension. So what they were saying to me is, it's there for us now, and it's very energetic. Like right now, the 6 of us have come together. We are in New Earth right now, all 6 of us, because of our connection and our consciousness and everything. Marina was saying about the geometries that we give out with our frequency and create these connections. The 9 call this alchemical unification, and that's what creates the New Earth and Gaia and the event, and it's all sort of mixed together. As you were saying, David, these questions you're asking are all kind of very, very connected. But what they were saying to me is, on a physical, tangible level, actually going out and about into your reality, into your world, those that are aware and existing within the 5th dimension are able to call in a New Earth reality to them wherever they are. They can be cooking in their own kitchen, they can be in the shower, or talking like we are. They are able to access that New Earth consciousness, that New Earth energy. And that's because of the way that we are moving together in this alchemical unification. We are broadcasting this signal out. And then they're telling me that it will be sort of, yes, Laura was talking about the solstice, the 21st of December, huge, huge date, multiple shifts occurring. But they're saying to me that it's 2021 when we actually start to see tangible evidence of this New Earth physically, that we can actually access as a physical presentation. So let's just say, I mean, comes in so many forms, but let's just say it's a business. So what they're saying to me is we're going into some kind of what they call a Robin Hood reality, as in not so much Robin Hood taking from the rich and giving to the poor, but where abundance is shared organically and magically and naturally, whereas those who have built their business upon greed and corruption, they will not sustain with abundance and with financial abundance. Those structures will fall, but this does take time. And then you will have these other individuals who are of purity and open heart, and their abundance and their business does sustain. Now it's looking like it's the opposite in certain places in the world right now, but energetically, that is how it's going to work out, this Robin Hood reality. But they also spoke about the outlaws. If you look at Robin Hood, where did they live? They lived in the forest. I'm not saying we're all going to live in the forest, but what they're showing me is there is this hidden world that's superimposed within our world, and it will become visible in 2021. It's there now, but more so visible in 2021, as in you might be walking around a town, if you're allowed out, and then it may be that sort of 100 businesses in this town are all holding these restrictions. You know, you have to wear a mask, you have to use hand sanitizer, you have to have a temperature gun aimed at your head, and all of these things, because they are living in the old world, the false narrative, and believing and subscribing to it. So because of their belief structure, they're assisting in creating that superimposed AI structure that is false. But those who are aware, when they take this in temperance and not extreme resistance, because there are many who are aware, who are in resistance to what is happening, and that's absolutely understandable, of course. But when you can move into a flow with it, you miraculously find that you turn around the corner and there's this little business where the hand sanitizer is made of organic lemons, and you know, you don't need to take your temperature, or I mean, I can't actually say how it will literally manifest, but what the 9 is saying is there are people now that are setting up events and businesses and structures that will welcome people who are aware and who are aware of the truth. But these businesses will not stand out in the way that would mean that they would be targeted and closed down. They will look as though they are normal structures to the everyday person. It's only the aware individuals that will see this world and see these structures and know where to gather. It will be hidden from the people who are not aware, and it will be hidden from the control system. In fact, the control system won't see these structures as a threat because they will simply look too old-fashioned, too simple. They won't have this flashy technological lights and bells and whistles and how everything is new and advanced. It will be more just simply simple, but we will be able to find them. And two people could go to the same new Earth structure, and one will see a structure that is the same as every other, but the aware individual will know they're in a new Earth structure. And this is just the beginning. And then this will sustain, because what the nine have said to me is, if you were to look at the movement into the new Earth in a physical sense, and the movement into the new world order in a physical sense, so the seeds are planted now and have been planted since lockdown, since March. The seeds of both of these worlds are planted now. So if you imagine that those seeds, those catalysts to these different worlds as babies, so they're babies right now, and in 2021 they will grow and become adolescent over time. I don't know how long this will take. This is a growth period. But what the nine are saying to me is the new world order structure will not grow past adolescence. So yes, it's going to grow from baby to adolescence, using a metaphor. So yes, we are in for challenging times, as I've said, and how everyone else is saying here. It's not going to be easy. This new world order structure is going to grow in ways, but the new Earth does not stop at adolescence. The new world order structure will fall when it reaches this point. It will absolutely fall and collapse. It can't sustain because of the light and the particles and the fact that we're moving into a different aspect in space and in hyperspace and wherever it is that we're going. But the new Earth structures, they flourish and they grow and they grow and they grow to adulthood and beyond, and they keep on growing, and they are sustainable. So we're right in the early stages of this, and I see that as a physical manifestation of what you could call the event. But I agree completely with Laura that the event itself is a multiple different presentations, and each person will experience the event and a series of events in their own unique way. And virus and lockdown was the event in one sense, but will there be a cosmic event? I think so. From what the nine is showing me, there is some kind of planetary alignment or movement, or some kind of cluster of comets or shift in planetary galactic structure. But the true event is the coming together, the enlightenment within, and the coming together as Marina was saying about this unity that we're creating. That's the true event. If you had to give it just one form, it would be the unification of humanity, and all of this is all part of it. And that's why I said earlier about the multidimensionality and understanding that there are different perspectives and different ways that these different dimensions are presenting themselves to us. So in one dimension, we might see absolute horror and chaos and how everything's falling apart and everything is frightening. And David, you were talking about waking up with a bit of anxiety. And I will say that starseeds right now are keying into this multidimensionality. So they're going to be having amazing, wonderful dreams and astral projections, but they're also having nightmares too, because they're keying in on this other world, because they're sensing the energy of both, which is what we need to integrate. And when we integrate these multidimensional presentations of all these energies, then we create this event ourselves, we create this new Earth pathway. So that's kind of what is happening to us right now. And it's so huge on every level. And every single starseed, every single aware person and an individual aware of truth will be going through this individually, as Laura said, and having their own unique event that's occurring at the same time as someone else's unique event. So Robin Hood society is the actual words the nine used. And if you study Robin Hood, the legends of Robin Hood and the stories, there are multiple metaphors just in that story. So that's something new that they told me about just a few days ago. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I love what you said about Marina. I want to ask you a quick question on this, then we'll move on. Is that you will start to experience, as you do the spiritual push-ups, Jeff, that you and we always talk about, as you do all this light work, you'll start to experience different things to people who maybe have agreed not to, or are not doing that, or will come later. And I've experienced a lot of this recently. I'll share another story. And Jeff, I've shared this with you and KIARA too, is that when I was traveling in the States recently, Nicole and I, we would go out and we'd be invisible to people. We'd almost invisible. And this happened over and over and over again. It was quite extraordinary. And we would perform sort of these Jedi mind tricks on people completely inadvertently, like we didn't know what was going on. And this is part of it. This is part of the light that you will present to the old structure. It'll be very different. And it'll be different. It'll be recognized different in different eyes. And anyway, so I'm experiencing that right now, and many of you are. I know you are, because you tell me. But Marina, with regards to the new structures and new businesses and things like that, I love what you do so much, and so many people do, with energy philanthropy. How much is that going to play into some of the physical structures, like businesses and things like that, in the new earth, do you think?
Well, the council was teaching the energy philanthropy because the fact that you are giving from the heart without expectations, it's a specific resonance that is connected with the heart structure. Because through the quantum field, when you are the one that got particle and projecting everybody in it, is nobody outside of you. When you give to somebody without expectations, you're actually giving to another version of yourself, and you're never being depleted. But it's not easy for people to hold the vibration of that understanding of knowledge, because you were being conditioned and preconditioned to think that you have to basically give piece of literally a paper to somebody, which is a consent of complete ludicrousy, for matter of a term, because when you give from the heart, holds a specific vibrational sequence that is actually the higher realms of vibration resonance. So when we're talking about resonance, it's when you start expressing yourself in that momentum. They told me, and I'm quoting, never, when I have sessions or I talk to somebody, never to put a price on anybody's head. And this is exactly what they told me, because they said, you need, since you're the quantum structure and you project everything, you do not want input output. Now we're talking here metaphysics, input output in your hologram, where when you express something, it's mimicking immediately like a mirror image in your holographic matrix. And you don't want any blockage of holographic imprints to the mirror image to give back that sound wave back to you for manifestation. Because if you have expectations, the expectation has a holographic imprint before getting back into your true self, the core of your vibration. And we're talking here quantum structure, so it's layers upon layers of frequency vibrations, and you want everything to be in neutrality in a center. So when you got the mimic back from the quantum structure of the mirror image, everything to manifest very quickly. And when you hold that vibration, this is how there's no time. This is how everything is started manifesting quicker and quicker and quicker, because they already told me that consciousness already made it. Basically, human race already made it. And it's fractal momentums. Each individual of planet Earth already made it, but you just have in a dream state now in a fractal momentums. Each individual is running in their own platform. And more you do from the heart, more and more you give in, more like collectively we combining with our energetic fields and exposing what's really happening, because you cannot reject the structure, but guess what? We can transform it. And when you transform it through the knowledge, you transform it with the higher resonance, where all these new platforms of the new earth, so-called, already pre-exist. But guess what? Because you are consciousness, you already are the new earth, and you're running program within the program, the way you have, for example, frequency, vibration, sound, but this sound has the multiple layers of sub-sounds inside. And this is in the harmonic reactor book that I have. all that frequencies of subsounds of vibration of tonality, which are all running on. So we're all moving. Why? Because consciousness is moving to the next level, not only from the positive, but also from the negative side. But you have the choice to consent or not consent to what's happening. If you don't consent and you don't want to act in the positive, then you're starting to create these resonances that is pulling you towards completely different timeline. And I'm quoting, they told me eventually that timeline will separate for itself unit, which is going to be, I'm quoting, God help the ones that give consent to that one, basically decided to consent and decide they're going to have a horrible timeline of experiences, while you and I and everybody else that tune into choosing a positive move into completely different experiences. But they told me that the one, that's a quantum structure and a matrix, the ones that are going into the negative structure and chose to do so, there is a virus, and the virus is based on they may build a technology that completely will destroy them. There could be a planetary shifting that is completely gonna blast the planet. Multiple realities, because the 3D structure that is splitting out right now is based on Archon, artificial intelligence, which was the negative structure, and they were maintaining through certain technology and other super technologies this type of a timeline. Well, guess what? Because the negative and the positive are also part of the structure of consciousness itself. There's no separation. But consciousness is moving to the next level and will no longer allow this. And each person in this negative timeline has its own ascension, and they have also positive structure. So it will be self-sabotage, and they're eventually going to go into extinction. How is that going to happen? How, who, and when, we don't know. But they told me the end result, humanity is winning. Humanity won already. You must know, and you hold that vibration. But how do you experience that on a daily basis is going to be based on your choices, action, thoughts, and deeds. And that's what is important for us to hold out right now.
Beautiful, wonderful stuff. Whew. My goodness.
Thank you, Magenta. Magenta, you said it great, great. Laura, you too. Oh my God.
So good.
I'm so blessed to be here between you guys.
So good.
Right on.
Magenta, I'm not going to bring you back in just yet, but Penny Lane says you have the most beautiful eyes.
Ooh.
There you go.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God, thank you.
No, to Magenta, not you, Marina, but you do too. We all do.
All right,
Got beautiful eyes.
No, I
But
sound
thank
terrible.
you.
You all do, you all do. Okay, let's shift another gear here. It's difficult to keep you, all these wonderful minds involved. The birth of the master in you. It's a big title. And Nicole was on a Zoom call with, I think, Imani and Dr. Christiane Northrup the other day. And I think it was Imani who said that humanity is kind of at about 38% dilated with the birth that you have or something. Hopefully we're more along than that. But many of you women who have gone through birth, I can't speak to that, but you're amazing. But Jeff Dunphy, who is, and we all are, but I'm so strongly involved with, blessed to be so, with the teachings of the Christed Homo sapien, the master in you in this new earth. Can you talk about, I guess, what the master in you means, Jeff, and maybe some of the mission that you're on to help people understand this?
It's a big question. I think one of the things that Laura so eloquently pointed out, and one of the things that all of us are dancing with right now, is becoming aware of the aspect of what we really are versus the aspect of what we think we are. And I think that's detaching yourself from your egoic identification, but also in the same thing at this particular stage in our development, many would think in terms of the duality that you need to kill out your ego. Well, you don't necessarily need to kill it out. You need to sublimate it into alliance with your higher self. And when it becomes a perfect instrument, we talk about perfect instrument in the hand of God, you start to lose the filters that are contrary to your Godhead, your mastery. And I think one of the things that Laura very eloquently pointed out, and also Magenta just said that when you start to allow the master in you to flow through you, unencumbered by your programming, unencumbered by the hypnosis and the nonsense of society, you start to see the perfection in everything, and you start to see the Godhead in everything, and you start to see Gaia in everything. And one of the things that I think is completely contrary to what everybody expects, and certainly what we've been programmed into doing, is once you've done 1,000 push-ups, or once you've done your rosary beads, or once you've done really good deeds, you're just going to get there. And that's delusory. Once you've tithed all your money to the church, all of that stuff is wearing out and dissolving, because as Marina just pointed out, the nature of everybody waking up is going to separate the non-master egoic vehicle from the mastery that you reside in. And so when many of the masters have written over time that, and I think in the white book that Ramtha talks about, he sits on a cliff and just allows his mastery to be him. And this is where we're grappling with, in retooling, we're grappling with the doing. How many push-ups do you have to do? How many prayers do you have to, and the being, where you go off into Mother Nature, and the quieter you get as you wander into Mother Nature, then all of a sudden Mother Nature notices you. But if you go into Mother Nature very loudly and very preoccupied and very predisposed with your thoughts, Mother Nature can't notice you because you're not there. And I think when you start to get quiet enough, you start to reside in a knowingness that we would call an epiphany. And that epiphany transcends the intellectual capacity to grasp it. And I think KIARA said that, Magenta said that, Laura said that, we've all sort of said that changes your vibration. But that aha moment is constantly wanting to be reinterpreted by your egoic understanding of it. So imagine, if you will, somebody speaking to you in Greek, and you're looking at them like they've got 3 heads, and I just don't get it. That's what your ego's trying to do. So what it'll do, it'll take a box and it'll put whatever experience into that box in order to make sense of it, when it can't be made sense of in the intellectual capacity. So the masters have taught that we have a lower self, which Laura has made reference to. We have the physical self, or the personality, which is composed of the intellect, the emotional body or astral body, and the physical and etheric body. There's your personality. And then your higher body is your monastic mind, which is your higher abstract mind, your Buddhic body, which is the love wisdom mind, and your atmic body, which is will and power. Well, that is where you reside. And the symbology of that is, that's who you really are. And this is your packaging. And when you can bring who you really are into your packaging, it's like an inverted triangle and an upward pointing triangle. And you put the two together, you get the Star of David, which is a lot older than just the last few thousand years. So that's where we speak of, the masters have given us tools over the years of how to become a soul infused personality. And a lot of it comes to the phrase of just get out of your own way, become aware of your dialogues, become aware of your thought patterns, belief repattering, and a lot of that. And Laura very eloquently spoke to that. And the Council of Nine speak to that too. You walk into a place and it's complete. And you and Nicole, where you would walk into places and people would see you or they wouldn't see you. So it's a very magic time, but it also is the balancing of doing and also being. And we coined the phrase do, because you can't do one without the other. And in the same breath, the being, the allowance of your majesty needs to be allowed in presence, in timelessness, and in and by the grace of God.
Marvelous, amazing. I love listening to you, Jeff. So good. KIARA, what's your journey with this, with the birth of the master in you? And of course, you've been on this, as we all have, been on this path of self-discovery and birthing the master in you for so many years, and you've shared so many wonderful experiences with me and with our guests and audiences here across our Age of Pandora series. But what's been some of your experience with, maybe from sort of the subcontinental side of teachings, of birthing that master within you and stepping into it?
Yeah, so when we're talking about ancient Indian traditions, it's not so much about becoming anything, but recognizing what you already are. So who I am is consciousness, and there's qualities to consciousness which have to do with love, wisdom, power, beauty, and all of those things that can be manifested in outer reality. And then, as Jeff was saying, you know, there's the primordial aspect and there's the human packaging. So bringing those two together. And how does that happen? You know, this is the practice, to continually be aware who I am and what I am. Who I am referring to that primordial self, or just consciousness. And then what I am is all the qualities of humanness, the mental, emotional, egoic aspects of myself. But part of it is shifting identity from the personal self, where I imagine that this is who I am, the memories, the thoughts, the feelings, the history, to recognizing, okay, this is how I appear to be in this reality, but who I am is unnameable. And so once we are really able to hold both at the same time, that's the development of mastery. And what it also means is that you become simultaneously multidimensional. So you're not locked into one body, one dimension, one perspective, one appearance, but you're also experiencing all of it at the same time. So you're looking at the world as it is today, for instance, and you can see that there's chaos, there's, you know, things that are happening on the outer levels that are painful. And at the same time, you can also see the perfection. At the same time, you can also see that we've already transcended into a new earth consciousness. At the same time, you see the supramental world that you're bridging into, which is not separate from this world. So, you know, earlier people were talking about timelines, and we're talking about events, you know, major cosmic events. And I think if we can hold those together, so the events that we experience have much to do with the timelines that we carry. They're personal timelines, but they're also collective timelines. And, you know, Laura, last time you were talking about the organic ascension timeline versus the artificial timelines. And I think this has been something that we've been going back and forth for a very long time. And we're beginning to converge together into the new timeline, the ascension timeline. And as we shift into that, what we experience as the event is going to be very different from what we would experience from the old timeline. So for instance, we talked about galactic superwaves. So this is like a 12,000 year pulse from the center of a galaxy that moves out through the Milky Way as cosmic rays, gamma rays. And as it moves through our solar system, it energizes events within our sun, which then liberates itself as micronova events. And then we experience that on this earth as magnetic reversals or cosmic ray implosions. But how we experience it is different depending on what level of consciousness we're at. So for instance, last time this wave came through 12,000 years ago, we experienced a sinking of land masses, the end of a cycle of history, the Atlantean period. And we started all over again in many ways. And we're exactly at that transitional point now. So have we shifted into the new timeline strongly enough that when this next wave comes through, whenever that is, and I think it's not one single event on a collective level, but a series of events. But I also see that there's a period of time, a window of time through which all of this will happen for collective humanity and the earth. And, within the next 20 years, 25 years, we're going to see all of these playing out. And by then, as these things begin to happen, I think it's like a dance movement. There's an event which shifts consciousness and timelines, which allows another event to take place, another dimension, which then shifts us some more. And it could be that, with December 21st this year, there's a preliminary event. Maybe, the Aboriginals talk about the magic box, which is a Pleiadian technology that allows us to actually shift collective consciousness in harmony with Pleiadian technologies. That could be one event, and then there's a magnetic reversal that takes place. And when magnetic polarity shifts happen, it also affects our relationship with different bodies. So each of our bodies is connected to the magnetic fields of the earth. And the relationship between the different bodies has to do with the overall magnetic field. And as that changes, it changes the relationship within us, which allows us to maybe shift out of our temporary human identity into this primordial consciousness, the divine self, and then re-enter into the human identity in a completely different way. So I feel like we're charting new possibilities as we go along. But if we can hold the big picture as much as possible, Sri Aurobindo, who's a mystic and yogi from India in the last century, he speaks about supramental force descending upon the earth. It's a unified field, and it's inevitable. It's already happened. It's already moved into the inconscient region of the earth and is now bringing to life what needs to move step by step. But as this happens, he says there's also going to be a supramental catastrophe. And what does that mean? It's not like a huge, big, global catastrophe in the way that we might imagine. What it means is that because of this unified light, whatever catastrophes we might experience in response to physical events would be much less destructive than what would otherwise happen, just because of the nature of this unified force. So it begins to depolarize the world, depolarize darkness and light, and our perspectives on reality. So that means that we can incorporate both aspects, the divine, the human, and the earthly, the three worlds of the shamans, in a way that can synchronize together in new ways, and we can go far, far beyond anything that we've experienced in our human evolution up to this point. So really know that we're going beyond our current human evolution. We're not finished as a species. If we were, that's pretty bad news. But like Laura was saying, or MAGENTA was saying, we're moving past the adolescent stage now into adulthood, into maturity, which also means entering into a divinity. We've denied a divinity for so long and overemphasized a humanity. So now we get to experience both at the same time, which is the next phase of our human evolution and Gaia's evolution as well, because we are equally a part of Gaia.
Divine. Thank you, KIARA. Whenever I listen to you talking, I melt into my chair as I have to pull myself out again. Your wonderful tone is just very, very powerful. Yeah, great stuff, guys. We're going to shift gears a little bit, and then we're going to close out with a meditation here. mindful of your time in different time zones. But for those of you who are online and sending comments, sorry, I'm not on the chat so much today, but please do post questions. We'll do a quick Q&A with the gang here. Pop them in all caps if you do have a question about the Ascension, the Great Awakening, or anything that you feel called to ask at this time. Please do put that in the chat now, and I will pull out a couple of questions in a moment. I want to just park in the realm of Ascension symptoms a little bit, because I think a lot of people want to hear some stuff on this. I know I do. Is that we are all going through different symptoms of this frequency shift, of this density shift. And Laura, I want to just bring you in here to talk about that, and all of you, in fact. But what are some of the things that, I hate using this word, but are normal for people to be experiencing right now? And what are some of the things that you're seeing with some of your clients and helping them with this stuff, if you're in that realm? But yeah, can we talk a little bit about Ascension symptoms?
Sure. Working with clients and looking at charts, somebody, is going to have a predominance of a particular elemental that is that experience that they're going to have the most Ascension symptoms. It might be the physical body would be more the earth signs, fire energies would be more about, solar plexus and just stepping into one's passion, dealing with maybe anger and frustrations, maybe feeling called to action and needing to take on a leadership role and letting go of, where any of the blocks are. When you go into the water element, you might see Ascension symptoms of a lot of depression and sadness and grieving, the old kind of world, and the relationships that aren't really working out. You move into the air signs and it's much more epiphanies and downloads and just sort of that deprogramming. So because there's going to be interaction between all these elements, though, it's not limited to one of those elements. The way that they all kind of work together, if it's not, being addressed, it always ends up in the physical body. Anything that we don't process and move through and transmute always ends up in the physical body. And then the physical symptoms that we experience very much take us into the roots of which elemental or which experience, whether it's from past lives, whether it's from this particular incarnation, whether it's about a calling that we feel that we're trying to grab onto. You can tell kind of, what is the root behind some of the physical symptoms. So physical symptoms are very much a lot of times for people hitting the nervous system, because the Uranus energy stimulates the nervous system. When we looked at the electromagnetic energies, the magnetic would be more about the Pluto and going into the dark night of the soul. So between the two of them, it's going to open us up to that third outer planet, which is Neptune. And that takes us into the multidimensional. It takes us into the unseen realms. It helps us to shed light on our unconscious self in order to become fully conscious. And that will begin to dissolve the delusions, the infections that we have in our creative channels, and the things that are kind of haunting our creative imagination, where these trigger events will throw us more into a trauma and almost like a repeat and a maybe projection and delusion of what's ahead. And then it'll begin to cleanse that so that we can begin to be co-creators and operate from our creative imagination with clarity. So between these three planets, these are the big initiators, the electric, the magnetic, and then the multidimensional. So it really depends on the person and how they relate to these outer planets, and also how they relate to the Saturn moon energy, because the Saturn moon matrix is what's being taken down, the old patriarchal order, and all these different mechanisms to keep us out of balance and to keep us in these archetypal distortions where we're not able to achieve harmony and unity and sacred union. So the symptoms, they're all across the board. A lot of people might have a lot of disruption in their relationships. They might start to understand that the negative things that they might think are negative and the adversities are blessings in disguise, and they're not so polarized in a duality sort of perception. And they can begin to see sort of the greater alchemy of, we're taking down an old structure to rebuild a new one that is able to accommodate these powerful light energies coming in. And it's something coming from the earth into our feet chakras. And, it's also cosmic. And so those energies are mixing throughout our chakras. So it really depends on a person's past lives. It depends on where they currently are in their journey. But there's a list of symptoms in the physical, spiritual, mental, emotional levels of being And because we're elemental and we're going through a transformation, the presence of the ether is purifying these inner elementals, which are connected to the nucleic acids in our DNA, which is helping us to upgrade our DNA. And this is also how we help the earth or experience a higher earth energy, because as we do that internal clearing in our inner elementals, the earth has no choice but to respond to us, because we begin to project this much more purified version of ourselves, which helps us to see a much more purified version of the planet. So it really depends. I mean, I've seen, everything under the sun. Some people have a full list where pretty much every elemental is giving them ascension symptoms. Some people, though, are major space holders to provide the growth periods for others to start to experience ascension symptoms that they may have already gone through, or they were born without needing to go through. It's kind of like that one thing that they're holding in a lot of stability that gives them the capacity to activate others. And then, but they might have a problem with grounding. And so their growth period or ascension symptoms is learning to get into the body and manifesting different synchronicities to help them get more rooted and more grounded. So everything is really, no matter how much the adversity is, losing the judgment of that adversity can help us to understand that the adversities are a blessing in disguise, taking us into a major, major upgrade. And where the symptoms end up taking us is a greater wisdom and perception of our reality, where we don't feel victimized. We accept everything coming at us as an opportunity to grow and thrive, because really at the end of the day, we're spiritual athletes. These obstacles are given to us to gain greater strength. We've been taught to allow them to crush us so that we give our power away. So I think all the things that aren't working out in people's lives, the great realization is we're learning to fall back on ourselves. That's why this isn't working out. That's why our leaders have failed us. That's why so much relationship or heartbreak, or relationships falling apart or jobs ending and all this heartbreak, is really giving us a chance to step back and, reroute. So some people feel like they're dying, but it's all like a beautiful thing. Every single physical symptom and disease to me is already an ascension symptom, because everything that feels like it's going wrong is on the verge of going right. And so we've had ascension symptoms for a really long time, but we've been diagnosed, given drugs, and been given these projections and labels that we've been carrying around. So we've been stuck in an ascension symptom, calling it disease, and holding on to that label and spending a whole maybe incarnation cycle not moving to the next level. So I think the big awakening is, wow, these adversities and symptoms and discomforts are actually helping us to get closer to ourselves rather than further away. And if we can embrace it and allow it to help us to get to know ourselves better, we're going to come out the other end a whole and balanced being, filled with light, and really taking care of our human vessel and forming the best relationship we could possibly imagine. So I think every single illness and every single adversity is an ascension symptom, and it always has been, but now we're really about to get it, because all these different lifetimes and all this different experiences given us exactly what we need to finally claim the wisdom of how the universe operates, and how all of this is to assist us in becoming the best of ourselves, not to encourage us to give our power away or live in fear anymore.
Wow. Yeah, incredible. Thank you so much. That's more than I bargained for. Terrific. Really, really powerful stuff. Thank you. Well, I'd like to throw that question out to more people, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to rip right into a Q&A here, because there's some great questions flowing. And I'm going to just direct this to certain people, and then we'll wrap up with the meditation here. But thank you for all your questions, guys. Again, in advance, sorry if I can't get to all of them. I'll do my best to ask a few here. But Todd asks, which I think is probably the question on everyone's minds to a large degree, should we participate in the movements going after the dark ones, the DF, the dark forces, or should we put focus that bring in the new world? And Marina, I'd like to throw that to you.
Well, immediately the answer was no. You put a focus into the positive with a positive action. So you're going to reconstruct this way one holographic imprint through the negative that you see, which is within your matrix within the matrix. And when you refocus your attention to something positive through action, thoughts, and deeds in a daily basis, fractally, moment to moment, that creates a very much potency into your field, which the end result of your action will be in a positive outcome that you create as you go. And that's a quantum structure knowledge. Okay. So redirection of one attention here to a new one. This way you mutate one structure of a hologram with a completely brand new one, and staying in the center, recognizing that the negative structure exists because it's part of consciousness. You cannot reject it, but you can acknowledge it, say thank you, by shutting this program down and mutating it and bombarding it with a brand new frequency, which will mutate into a completely new reality outcome for you. And once you do that in a daily basis, I guarantee you, you're going to expand that into a positive outcome into the collective. You're going to turn around and you're going to see positive outcome, positive things people are doing. The way Magenta was saying, you go into the restaurant, all of a sudden, oh my God, there's no masks. Because I'd experienced that going into New Jersey, and the biggest thing that they had here, I went into one location in the middle of the street, looked like a tropical night, no masks, and everybody was eating all over the place. I could not believe, I thought I was in a Twilight Zone, but I was in my own reality because I was carrying, even when I was wearing mask, I wasn't wearing it because I was afraid of whatever was happening, but because I wanted to stay in neutrality and not respect the people that were so afraid of what was happening. Thanks for the question, great question, and thanks for letting me answer it.
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. Really, really cool stuff. Okay, next quick question. This is a bit of a random one, and I'm going to toss it at you, Magenta, just because I feel like it. Dolly Daydream, thanks for your question. What about orbs? I see more white light but blue the other day, but I want to expand that question a little bit. What about orbs? I'm kind of curious. This is a different subject, but I see orbs all the time, and I know many of you do. Can you talk a little bit about orbs, what they may be, and just some commentary around these wonderful light beings, I suppose?
Again, we come back to multidimensionality. These orbs are manifestations of so many different things. This can be your own consciousness projected. This can be an extraterrestrial being coming in. This can be astral travelers that are emanating a light. But ultimately, this is you seeing individualized intelligence, individualized consciousness. And whilst there are nefarious orb structures, they're usually darker. But if you're seeing them white and light and blue and pink and all different colors, they're usually light ones. Not always. There can be some very dark, almost black orbs that are highly evolved and very positive, and there can be white orbs that are nefarious. I mean, to answer that question is very difficult, but I personally, if I had to give that answer in a concise way, then these are intelligence structures, consciousness structures that are individualized. Some of these you can actually go into, and then you can see different forms when you go into them. So there can be an orb, as in the presentation of that being, that consciousness is an orb. That's how it presents. But others are transportation devices, like the organic matrix field of a being, and you can go into the orb, and when you look inside the orb, you will see a fairy or pixie-like being. Or sometimes the orb, when you go into it, is actually a ship, transportation device, as I said, Merkaba. So orbs are multiple and varied. And asking that question is kind of like someone outside of Earth saying, what is a being? What is it? And you would say, well, they're human, they're animals, they're insects. So orbs can be multiple different things. But did you say the person asking the question saw a specific color orb?
Yeah, it was, let's see now. Yeah, there was the seeing of white and blue orbs as well. Maybe they have different.
So white and blue, if they're being seen together, and obviously if somebody is watching this material, then this person is aware, and so is unlikely to be seeing nefarious orbs unless they're being trained. And a lot of that training ground has sort of come to its conclusion now as we've moved into this new phase. So people are more in this mastery phase rather than student phase, even though the two are always intertwined. personally, the blue and the white orbs would be extraterrestrial, you know, outside of time, outside of linear time. So multidimensional, ultra-dimensional travelers from other time zones, and seeing your own guidance system. I mean, the 9 present to me usually as angelic beings, but they can lose that form and become orb-like. So extraterrestrial consciousness structures of higher intelligence. And for this particular person, I feel this is about catalyzing, and it's about assisting with downloads, assisting with DNA activation, and healing, and all of those things that occur. Which is, we were on the subject of ascension symptoms, and ascension symptoms can be like a medical symptom, but can also be all these higher dimensional symptoms, and seeing orbs would be one of them. Seeing all sorts of beings, we're opening up to an entire new sight, an entire new reality, and seeing orbs is something that will be commonplace in a few years. The spiritual awakening that's occurring in these next few years is absolutely phenomenal, and so orbs is part of that whole awakening process. So that would be my response. And again, it's something I could talk about in much more depth, but obviously we don't have the time to do that. So
no, magic. Thank you, Magenta. That adds a ton of value to me as well. Brilliant. Excellent. Okay, final question, then we're going to go into a quick meditation here. It's for Jeff, actually. I think it's Lisa from the laboratory, Jeff. We'll find out, I'm sure, soon. You ready for this? Can you share how we defractal our energy if we fall asleep in the sun?
Oh, wow. That's a biggie. That's a biggie. Well, suffice it to say that I think as we sleep, we become less attached to our bodies. And as we travel around astrally, our bodies are inanimate for the moment as we may travel around. And the sun has a tendency to activate or create a thinness between the physical body and the astral body. And so consequently, it creates a potential for an opening of somebody else who is curious or possibly even nefarious to integrate into your physical body that you don't want. And so it's one of the reasons we try not to fall asleep. And so you can meditate in the sun because you're not leaving your body, but leaving your body in the sun creates a potential opening to have, oftentimes astral beings that aren't incarnate, are curious about people who have lots of light around them. Now, it doesn't mean they're mean or nasty or bad. It just means they're curious. And then there are those who are mean or nasty or bad who want to take advantage of you. And that's where those who are heavily drugged, they create a thinness between their sheaths. And so they can actually be possessed. And one of the things is true aspirants. And if we're out meditating in the sun, it's fine. But when you sleep in the sun, your astral body is detached from your physical, and it's just it's kind of like a silly thing to do. And we've been told by the masters throughout time that that's just not something you want to do, because when those of us who start to wake up and you become a curiosity to those who are not embodied. And when you become a curiosity to those who aren't embodied, they are attracted to you like moths to flame. And we just need to pay attention to that. I mean, there's certain rules, right? One of the rules is don't go to sleep in the sun, because it creates a potential for interference, or, on the far side, it was just somebody can actually jump into your vessel and you become possessed. Does that happen all the time? No, but certainly it's a potential that you want to be aware of. Good question.
It's a great question. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Brilliant. And you shared a wonderful story about that. Was it last night? Yeah, Monday was last night about that. Anyway, okay, guys. Well, we're going to head into a meditation now. I'm going to read an Arcturian message, some of which I felt called to share. Some of it resonated with me, some didn't. As with all channel material and messages that come to you, it's really key to do your own discernment. It's really key to channel that through the central channel, through your truth engine, if you like, and discern what makes sense to you. But the meditation that we're going to do, that I talked to KIARA about, is really centered around putting some energies towards helping Gaia shift to fourth densities and higher right now. And I'm going to read this message and then we're going to head into the meditation. So before I do, if you need to get headphones, guys, I'm going to play some music very quietly underneath KIARA's meditation in a little bit. So just go and grab those as I read this. And I shall bring it up, not on screen, but so I can read it here. Okay, and again, take what resonates with you from this, and what doesn't, just leave behind, as we do with everything we should do. So we start here. A galactic collective, this is an Arcturian message, wishes to speak with you about some of the upcoming updates to the collective DNA templates. We are a collective of Arcturian star beings, part of the Galactic Federation of Light, in service of the transition of life forms on the planet to higher dimensional frequencies. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and ask that you rebroadcast this message to those with whom this message will resonate. In around 3 weeks from mid-October, so we're slightly past that now, this was back in late September, a cosmic event will occur for which humanity must be prepared for. The transition to the fourth dimensional density is occurring, and this will directly affect the stability of the planet. The human consciousness must be prepared to experience a certain phenomenon that will seem unusual, particularly in the sky, but not limited to. They must stay away from fear. A galactic intervention has become necessary to help humanity and the planet Gaia keep pace with the acceleration of her ascension-related phenomena occurring throughout the cosmos. The ascension shift that is occurring now on your planet will move into hyperdrive or overdrive. Marina kind of talks about this with the momentum, fractal momentum. Time is collapsing much faster towards the point of cosmic neutrality, and humans must dramatically address their alignment to integrate these frequencies. We come to give notice of preparation, for what is to come will shake the core of life as you know it. There are cosmic phenomena that affect the magnetism of the planet. The Earth has moved into a different dimensional and vibratory space, the fourth density. She is passing through an area where other native celestial bodies form in her orbit and pose a potential danger along her course. Many messages are aimed at distorting the frequency and facts. Mixed messages designed to divert the masses and divert the focus from what is truly important right now in all caps. Many distractions abound on your planet to keep humanity in a state of unpreparedness for the real challenges that present themselves. It is imperative that humanity begin to accept that what it is seeing and knowing deep down is true. Thousands of our ships and beings have come from all over to assist in this transition. It is in the great interest of Gaia and the star nations seated upon her, embodied through her, the great stargate that she is, that we have all come to facilitate the rapidly approaching changes. Prepare your physical bodies. The best way to do this is to fast. Begin intermittent fasting as soon as possible, because this will allow for a very rapid frequency change. This is a side personal comment, guys. If you're unfamiliar with fasting, then do some research on that and how it will affect you biologically, and if needed, seek professional advice with that. It will allow the energy that is currently used for digestive and metabolic processes to be redirected towards the improvement of the neurological systems. At this time, fasting for at least 16 hours a day is required to assist us with a planned intervention to make the necessary updates to the templates of the nervous system, allowing frequency alignment to occur as Gaia moves through this transition field of magnetic alteration and high radiation and photon activity. And there's a lot more, but I'm going to pause it there. And what that really is for me, folks, is a preparedness message, a message of light from the Galactic Federation of Light, but perhaps a message that we can use in meditation here to help Gaia in her shift to the fourth density and help each other become more open to receiving these codes and frequencies. Marina, you've already talked about this. You had a wonderful show on Saturday. So KIARA, I want to just give you the mic, my friend. Whatever you feel called to share in a meditation here to, I suppose, be somewhere near centered to this message, to help Gaia shift, to connect with Gaia, to connect to each other into this new density that we're moving into. So I'm just going to layer some music in the background here, but I want to throw the mic over to you to lead us out with a wonderful meditation, my friend.
All right, well, thanks. Maybe I'll start with just a definition of fourth density, because so many people have different ideas and opinions about what this means. Is it the same as dimensions? Does it have to do with different bodies? And if we can look at the physical body and the etheric body as a single continuum, we tend to focus our consciousness more on the physical side. But if we can also stretch out a little bit into the etheric body and recognize that we're actually bringing these two bodies together now. So the etheric body is a prana body. It has to do with our ability to feel, to sense realities and perceptions beyond the physical. And this is becoming more and more natural. We talked about ascension symptoms. I think we're naturally becoming more perceptive as we step into the etheric vibration, which is also about stepping into the fourth density. We've talked about inner earth and how different layers of the inner earth have to do with different densities. People talk about Shambhala or Agartha. These are dimensions within the inner earth which can be experienced as cities or civilizations, which are now rising to the surface. We're merging consciousness with all of this. So the humans on the surface, humans below, humans above, we're coming into the recognition that we're not different from each other. And that it's time now to actually recognize that we are multidimensional. So let's do a practice from the Inca tradition, where we begin to open up to the different worlds above and below. And they work a lot with electrical and magnetic currents. So we'll use these currents to make a bridge between the worlds. So imagine that you're inside a bubble of light. And this extends about 6 feet or 2 meters around the physical body in all directions. And this bubble represents a boundary of the middle self, or the middle world. It's a human personality, the personal self. And over the top of this bubble, so about 6 feet or 2 meters above the top of your head, imagine now that there's a window, a circular window opening up into the inner world, the upper world. And so just with your intention, you're opening this window as wide as you can and immediately experiencing this torrent of light pouring in all the way through the bubble, all the way through the lower bodies, through the physical body, into the earth. And this light pouring in from above is electrical, very high frequency, very purifying, very stimulating. And it pours all the way through to connect with the earth, goes deep inside the earth, different layers of the earth. So from the physical body of the earth into the etheric body of the earth. Into the subtle bodies of the earth. And as it nears the center of our planet, connecting with the causal body, that point of singularity. At which point you enter into this portal through which you access anything and everything across the galaxies. And so you allow this frequency of light to move all the way through your body, all the way through the earth, into the very center of the earth, into that point of singularity. And then from there, there's a response, a direct, immediate response of magnetic frequencies. And this magnetic energy starts pouring up like a fountain of light, very nourishing, very healing, unconditionally loving. It moves up through all the different dimensions of the earth, and then up through your feet, up through your body, up through the bubble, and then through that window up to the sky. And so you have the electrical frequencies of light pouring downwards, and the magnetic frequencies pouring upwards, creating a link between the worlds, between sky and earth. And as these two frequencies interact with each other, you feel yourself expanding. There's a sense of merging through the subtle dimensions, the causal dimensions. You feel yourself expanding further and further and further out. Across space and even across time. You're very deeply grounded and at the same time greatly expanded. You feel this quality of light pouring through. You experience a sense of peace, joy, vitality, freedom, unity. And at the same time, you're feeling very, very heavy, as if you're a mountain, deeply rooted within the earth. So as we do this, we're linking the physical and the etheric bodies together. The sense of vitality as you connect with the etheric realm, the sense of deeply rooted physicality as you connect into the earth realms. And all you're doing is keeping that window open and simply allowing these energies to flow back and forth. You are allowing. It's not a doing. So just keep that window open as wide as you can. And as you continue to expand further and further and further out, you're entering into that fourth density field. You, as primordial consciousness, merging with the personal identity, entering, descending, grounding yourself through the physical form into the earth, creating a bridge through which Gaia can experience herself. In a different way. And as we continue to expand further and further out, you feel yourself actually becoming Gaia. You're experiencing the entire body of the earth within yourself. The trees and the mountains, the skies and the oceans, they're all a part of you. There's no inside, there's no outside. And this is that unified field that we're evolving into, where our senses become much more refined. Our experience of self becomes much more incarnated, embodied. And as we become a bridge between the earth and sky, we join with other species of life on this earth. Each expressing and manifesting in their own way into the unified field that is Gaia. And the Incas talk about Mother Earth as Pachamama. But Pachamama is not just the earth, it's also the moon and the sun, the stars, the galaxies, everything that is alive, everything within the matrix of time and space. In every dimensional density, all of it is the field of matter, which is alive, conscious, and awake. So as we connect with Gaia, we're connecting with Pachamama, the Cosmic Mother. Every cell within our body becomes a reflection of Pachamama. As above, so below. As within, so without. So as we're joining the three worlds together, we're stepping outside of the experience of human limitations. Experiencing a multidimensional presence. And connecting with the soul of Gaia. In this field, there's an invitation for the inner earth civilizations and the extraterrestrial civilizations and the surface humans to meet together in harmony, resonance, and beauty. There's an invitation for all of life, all species on earth, above, below, and within. To support each other in a circle of life. To experience and express the divinity potential within each of us to the next level of awareness. So feel yourself expanding even further out beyond the earth, out through the solar system. Out through the Milky Way. Across galactic space. Across the entire matrix of time and space and physical creation. And then beyond that, beyond time and space, beyond physical creation. You experience yourself simply as that primordial consciousness, the one spirit, within all things, beyond all things. So this experience of primordial consciousness is now being anchored into every cell of the body. This is a journey into fourth density and beyond. So much gratitude to Gaia for holding us, becoming us as we become her. To the Cosmic Mother, as the birther of this great mystery that we're moving towards. And as we hold this consciousness, this awareness together, we're sending this out through the collective, rippling out through collective human consciousness, across the physical, etheric, subtle and causal bodies of Gaia. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Well, thank you, KIARA, for that wonderful message. I just invite everyone to come back in slowly, as ever, at your own pace and in your own time. Back into the room, back into our physical bodies here. Thank you, KIARA. As magic as ever, my friend. And thank you to everybody here today. Magenta, Jeff, KIARA, Marina, who I know has got to go, Laura, and for everybody watching. The divine in me sees the divine in you. And we are very, very honored and humbled and grateful for all the panel here today and all the eyes watching. And we wish everyone nothing but light and love, and to hold the line at this time, to hold the line with Gaia, as KIARA was beautifully leading us into, and to hold the line with our own higher self in everything that we do in thought, in word, and deed. I just thank you all for being here today. It was just beautiful. Thank you. And if all were to stay on the line here, we'll just close off. We will wrap. And I will link everyone's work in the description here, guys. Please do go and check out their work. Go and donate where you feel called to do so. And we'll see you on the next Age of Pandora podcast. We send you lots of love. Bye for now.
Next week, just as a prelude, we'll have Christian Northrup joining us.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's good. We shall try not to get thrown off the air. But no, thanks for that. So do tune in, guys, and lots of love. We'll see you soon.